Gnostic ancestors of the Templars were Priory of Sion, and Rex Deus, the Essenes. Essenes claimed to be the sons of Zadok, Melchizedek. Zadokite was a Hebrew-Aramaic title for the descendants of the royal priestly lineage, known vicariously as Rex Deus. They were the first cells of organized monasticism in the West. They unaccountably considered themselves to be an Enochian Judaism sect descending from Enoch. They unaccountably cherished the serpent-dragon as an ancient symbol of the Essene Therapeutate heritage, the white snake brotherhood of Egypt. Lunar versus solar. Essenes further held the Book of Jubilees, and anything to do with Enoch, in the highest regard. They based their calendar on the solar year, under the guidance of the ancient Enochian calendar, which ran contrary to the Jewish lunar calendar. It was their peculiar practice to pray in the morning by turning themselves towards the sun, in defiant contrast and opposition to the other Israelite sects, who prayed in the direction of the temple. Essenes disobediently worshipped in the first and second temples by kneeling in white robes towards the sun at dawn, worshipping Tammuz and Ishtar, from the Chaldean pantheon, a rebellious practice that outraged Ezekiel during the age of the First Temple. Essenes were a very old, distinct, separate, and rebellious Sabian sect set against the famous Sadducees and Pharisees recorded in the New Testament, which Jesus spoke to and against. Essenes, said to be a secret sun cult, were an alliance of Enochian and Zadokite priests descending from the Melchizedek cult of Canaan. Essenes became known to history and legend as the Zadokites, Zedek the encoded sun god component of Melchizedek, princes of Jerusalem who escaped to Europe after 70 CE, forming the families that eventually founded the Knights Templar. Essenes were the sons of light and righteousness that were said to secretly serve the pagan bull god Moloch. This mystical Enochian and Canaanite Melchizedek cult burrowed deep into Judaism, regaining complete control of the Second Temple just before its destruction. This, then, lends corroborating credence to the statements recorded in the Dead Sea Copper Scrolls that more secret documents were buried under the Jerusalem Temple and were some of the mysterious documents, treasures, and knowledge carried off to Scotland by the descendants of the Zadokite princes of Jerusalem, the Knights Templar. Zadokites to Rex Deus, Templars. As the Zadokite families were becoming the most powerful families in Europe, they began to call themselves Rex Deus, Latin for Kings of God. Descendants of those Zadokite priests returned to Jerusalem in the 11th century as the Knights Templar, once more linking the Essenes dynastic descendants directly to the Templars through the European nobility, Rex Deus, and the Priory of Sion. Hiram-Abiff Pythagoras Dionysian artificers. Essenes are connected to the builders of Solomon's Temple. The builders of the First Temple were a combined labor force from Israel that included skilled craftsmen, along with skilled Canaanite craftsmen provided by King Hiram of Tyre and Canaanite craftsmen from Byblos. Chief of the craftsmen was the famous Hiram-Abiff. Both Hirams are considered in Freemasonry and secret societies as a Grand Master of the Black Arts and Sciences, the Seven Sacred Sciences. Solomon is celebrated by Gnostics as a great sorcerer of the black arts and crafts, possessing skills and knowledge he supposedly inherited as part of his kingship rights, which were passed down through history from Moses as black arts he allegedly learned in Egypt, which were somehow passed down from Hermes and Enoch. King Hiram employed craftsmen who were descendants of the architects and master builders, likely Philistines, who built the Mycenaean royal castles and the Cretan villa palaces, thus extending this royal lineage of master architects back into history, likely to the antediluvian epoch. Cretan history is divided into three palatial periods, including the prepalatial period, beginning in 3200 BCE or before. These craftsmen were the famous, ancient collective the Dionysian artificers of Tyre. They built most of the ancient temples in the Middle East. The ancient order of Freemasonry claims this as part of their legacy. Masonic historian Manly Hall further confirms the Dionysian artificers were a secret society with doctrines much like the modern Freemasons. They taught architectural technology, alongside the wisdom of Solomon, to their new Israelite initiates in Jerusalem for centuries. This knowledge then merged and was protected within the mystical Essene order before being passed on to Pythagoras. The ancient Masonic institution, as recorded by craft legends, was inherited by the Essenes as successors. The Essenes then transmitted their reticent tenets to Pythagoras and his mystery school at Crotona, where the tenets were disseminated throughout Europe, likely through Rex Deus organizations. This is how some of the knowledge of the Dionysian builders of Tyre was passed down to the Roman collegia, via Pythagoras, in the 2nd century BCE.